Who will dominate the moon by 2030, China or the United States? Picture the lunar South Pole at dawn, knife-edge ridges, pits of night, ice locked in shadow, and a question that will shape this century. NASA's leadership says America will win this new race and the next ones. China answers with hardware. Quietly, test by test, it is assembling a full lunar stack, rocket engines, lander, cruise ship, suits, comms, rover, with a heavy launcher at the center. And that centerpiece, the Long March tent, is designed with one purpose: put takeonaut on the moon and keep them coming. Here's the headline. Long March tent is built around the YF-1K, a liquid oxygen kerosene engine running an oxidizer-rich stage combustion cycle. Translation: it pre-burns a slice of propellants to drive the turbopumps, then feeds that super-hot mixture into the main chamber, so almost nothing is wasted. High pressure and efficiency. China spent years maturing this family. The kind of work that turns sketches into steel, paying off in an engine that clusters, gimballs, throttles, and can be reused. Rewind the tape. In the 2000s, Chinese engineers set out to field modern Kerolox engines and a modular launcher family that could scale from small satellites to national projects. The first public taste came in 2015 when the new generation flew on Long March 6. Then came grind mode, static fires that ran full duration, restarts, gimbal sweeps, abuse testing for turbopumps and valves. By the early 2020s, the shift was clear: single engine stands and multi-engine firings, the moment every rocket team both fears and lives for. Why obsess over an engine? Because rockets are engines with tanks attached. Long March 10's basic core Pack 7 YF. 1 KS on the first stage, a cluster built for margin. Lose one, and the mission can continue. Need steering? The center engine's gimbal. Need flexibility? The cluster throttles. Designers have hinted at a novel recovery approach for first stage as well. Bring back the most expensive hardware, cut costs, and turn lunar shots into scheduled services. Reuse turns a national statement into an industrial routine. Let's get concrete. The Long March 10A, the initial single-core configuration, flies at 5 meters in diameter and roughly 2/3 the height of a block. It's a proving ground for engines, avionics, and operations. The full moon-focused version adds side boosters and upper stage optimized for translunar injection. Chinese sources say the lunar setup can push tens of tons to moon, enough for 2 launch missions assembled in lunar orbit. That's the architecture China has mapped out. Straightforward, modular, repeatable. But a rocket without a lander is just a promise. Meet the Lenwei lander, a compact, no-nonsense machine that echoes Apollo's proportions with a modern twist. Apollo split descent and ascent into 2 stack stages. China's test vehicle leans toward a unified structure. The same body handles landing and the climb back to orbit. Around the crew cabin, a ring of main thrusters provides muscle, while clusters of reaction control jets keep it level in the last meters above the dust. Redundancy is the watchword. If one engine hiccups, the others keep the mission alive. If you saw photos of a lander hanging from towers and cables, that wasn't stunt. It's a gravity offload rig. The cables carry most of the weight, so the engines can practice hovering as if in 16G. China used a similar setup before its Mars landing. Now, the playbook returns to the moon. Rehearse the riskiest seconds on Earth until software, sensors, and pilots behave like one. Next piece, the cruise ship. China's Mengzhou spacecraft fills the Orion-class role. Deep space life support, high-speed reentry, and a launch abort system that can rip the capsule away in milliseconds if something goes wrong. A recent suborbital shot wrung out the abort tower and heat shield aerodynamics. A trial you run only when a design has crossed from drawings to flight hardware. Pair that with a prototype lunar suit nicknamed Theng Chong and a minimalist electric buggy, the kit for early polar sorties. Put together, and the architecture looks familiar, but not copy-paste. 2 launches. Rocket 1 sends a Lenwei lander to lunar orbit. Rocket 2 sends a crewed Mengzhou. The vehicle's rendezvous dock transfer the crew and head down. On the surface, flag, instruments, prospecting near a polar crater, maybe a rover drive. Then ascent, redock in orbit and a long, fiery ride home. How does it stack up against Artemis? NASA has already flown an uncrewed loop around the moon with SLS and Orion, proving the core ship and re-entry system. The plan is to send astronauts into lunar orbit next, with the actual landing contracted to SpaceX's lunar Starship, the orbital taxi that ferries crew between Orion and the surface. That's a bold public-private handshake. If Starship checks key boxes, rapid reuse, refueling, precision landings, America can sprint. If it slips, the schedule ripples. So who gets there first? On paper, the U.S. holds the lead in flight-proven deep space crew hardware. On the ground, China's cadence is relentless. Clustered engine tests, full-duration first-stage firings, lander hovers, abort demos, suits in the lab, a hint of a rover. Beijing doesn't need to beat the U.S. by a month. It needs to arrive credibly and then keep coming mission after mission until a presence becomes normal. Zoom back into YF. 1K for a moment, because this is where the Long March tent earns its name. Oxygen-rich staged combustion is unforgiving. The preburner runs hot and corrosive. Turbines swallow oxidizer-heavy exhaust that would devour lesser alloys. The main chamber runs at pressures that make submarines look flimsy. Mastering it takes superalloys, 3D printed injectors, friction stir welds, and valves that hit their set points like metronomes. The benefit is raw performance, higher chamber pressures, higher specific impulse, and control authority that lets the whole stack fly closer to the envelope without stepping over it. Reusability is the multiplier to watch. Even partial recovery, saving the engine section and avionics, can slash cost and raise cadence. Cadence is destiny. The more you fly, the more data you get. The more data you get, the smarter the tweaks become. It also turns every launch into a test bed. Try a new injector or seal, a smarter guidance law. Then read the sensors and decide what sticks. Why does any of this matter beyond bragging rights? 3 reasons. First, polar ice. Melted for water and air, split into oxygen and hydrogen for propellant. A tanker filled on the moon can change the math for Mars. Second, location. Peaks of near-eternal light offer steady solar power and line-of-sight communications. Far-side radio-quiet zones are priceless for astronomy. Third, prestige and influence. Whoever writes the rules for traffic, safety zones, and resource use sets expectations for decades. Will we see cooperation? Maybe, but don't count on it. Cislunar space, the vast volume between Earth and Moon, demands tracking, navigation, and logistics at a scale unseen since Apollo. Expect fleets of relay satellites, precision navigation beacons, and a new term, cislunar domain awareness. Those assets look like exploration infrastructure one day and strategic infrastructure the next. Watch 3 dials from here. Dial 1. 7 engine firings on a Long March 10 first stage that hit full mission duration with margin. Dial 2. Integrated lander trials showing precision hover, laser ranging hazard avoidance cameras, and clean touchdown on a simulated crater field. Dial 3. Crew capsule tests that stress the heat shield and parachutes. When all 3 are green, the next steps are procedural: rollout, launch, rendezvous, landing. The first crewed landing will be a spectacle. But the real story is what comes after. Repeatable logistics, surface power, and a pipeline of missions that turn the South Pole from a destination into a staging ground, geology, ice trenching, radio telescope deployment, demonstrations of in situ propellant production. That's the Long March 10's deeper significance. It isn't merely a rocket. It's the keystone of a bridge from low Earth orbit to a lasting foothold on another world. So, is China about to shock the world? In a sense, it already has, by choosing patience over drama and systems engineering over slogans. 7 engines light, the ground thunders. A new chapter begins. Whether the footprints are American or Chinese, one truth is obvious. The moon is no longer a museum. It's the next frontier of strategy, science, and industry, and Long March 10 is China's ticket. Now it's your turn. Who plants a flag first by 2030? China with Long March 10, Lenwei and Mengzhou, or the U.S.? With SLS, Orion, and a lunar Starship? Drop your prediction in the comments. If this gave you a clearer view of the race, tap like, and share with a friend who thinks the moon race ended in 1972. We're just getting started.